The sister stitch of the Sisal stitch is the Seagrass stitch. It is a beautiful natural slant. Add a turn for a cool zigzag configuration. You can do it with a border or without, or make it in the round. So knit flat or in the round. We'll do both today. Welcome to GoodKnit Kisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches. If you saw my Sisal stitch, then you saw it works really well in a flat panel, but it doesn't work as well in the round. You can see I've got a little seam for my cowl here. But we do have the Seagrass stitch, which works beautifully in the round, and that's my favorite application of it. It's super fast to whip up a hat or a bag. It slants to the side naturally without actually changing the round directions. It's actually just a 2-round repeat. And you can also knit it in a flat panel and do a little bitty change to make it zag in the opposite direction for a cool zigzag look. I'll show you all of these different configurations here in this one video. So first you're going to want your yarn and your needles. If you like to use a bigger yarn to see the stitch quicker, we're working with here a super bulky weight 6 yarn. The ball band calls for a US M13 needle or 9mm. I'm actually going down 2.5 sizes here, and we're working with a US 10 or 6.5 needle, and that's what I've got back here. And then if you want to work with a smaller yarn, say something like this for smaller stitches, you can work with a 4-weight yarn. This one's Red Heart Sheep, and that one is a number 4. It normally calls for a US 8 or 5mm, and I've gone down 2 sizes for a US 6 or 4mm. So whichever size of needle you want to work with, grab your needle and yarn and let's begin. For your free Seagrass Slouchy hat pattern, click on the link in the description below. So to start working in the round, you're going to want to cast on your desired amount of stitches to work in the round. Now here I have started with a hat, so you can of course get that pattern down below, but I've started with an even number of stitches, so you need a multiple of 2. In order to do this hat pattern, of course, this is a multiple of 4 because I have a 2x2 ribbing, so that gives you a head start on the pattern. All right, let's get into your 2-round repeat to make this. Remember, you need an even number of stitches. As you can see, I've been working in the round for this hat, and down here is my stitch marker, and this is where I had started it off. I had made my ribbing and then started this stitch, but you can see how it naturally leans this way. My stitch marker is way up here. I haven't been shifting it. I haven't been strategically moving it down. It just naturally occurs that way. So let's get into this 2-round repeat. The second round is just knit, so it's super easy. So I've already done a knit round here. So let's do round 1. It's actually just like the Sisal stitch. So if you've done that one, you already are halfway there. So you're going to start off by working with these 2 stitches, and we're going to bind off 1. So in order to bind off, we've got to work both of them in a knit stitch. Just yarn over and knit and knit. Okay, so 2 knits, and then lift that first loop over the second loop, and it's bound off. Now we want to thumb cast on. Now I will be showing this also in continental. So right now I'm throwing, or English style or American style, and then I'll show it in continental holding it with my opposite hand. So I'm using, this is what I call my working yarn. I've got my working strand. So I've got my, this is my working needle, and this is my working yarn or working strand. So I'm holding it here, and I've got it in my index finger. I'm going to reach around with my other needle and lift up the working yarn off. Okay, and then now I'm going to take my working needle and go it into that loop knitwise, and then let it slide off. Okay, and it's already in position. And then we just continue on. So let's do that one more time with this hand. So we're going to knit 2 to bind off. So we're binding off 1, and then we thumb cast on. So twist around, pick it off my finger, twist it, and insert knitwise that yarn. So we go into that loop with our working needle and then pull it up. And so you get this loop on here where the yarn is coming from the inside here. If we did a yarn over like this, then the yarn isn't set up correctly and it won't make this really cool stitch here. So trust me, you've got to do it this way in order for it to set up right. So let's go ahead and twist around, lift it off, insert our needle, let it slide off, and that's it. All right, I'm going to move over to show you Continental. Okay, I'm going to hold it this way. You can hold it however way is easier for you. We're going to work these first 2 stitches to bind off, and then I'll show you the thumb cast on. Okay, bind these stitches off. All right, all you do is take your working needle around to the back of your working yarn, pick it off the finger, and slide it. And it's already done. Do that one more time. Knit the stitch, knit the next one. Oops, this is set up wrong. I don't know why. Knit that next one. Okay, bind off. And then we're going to reach around, pick it off, and it's on. Okay, so that's the thumb cast on. If you did the actual thumb cast on, I just usually would take it and I twist my thumb around and then slip it on that way. But it takes too much time and I don't like taking it off of my hands like that. So I think these other 2 ways work really well. So that's all you do. You just repeat those 2 stitches in the round and meet back up to your marker, and then you knit all the way around. So go ahead and work on that, pause your video, and I'll just show you these last couple of stitches here and show you working how you work with that thumb cast on to knit that stitch. It looks a little bit different. All right, let's go. Okay, so I finished my round 1 and then I started round 2 just knitting around. I've got the last 2 stitches here to show you what this looks like. So the first one I come to is one that's just, it was bound off before, so we just knit that. And then this one you can see how it's just, we're approaching it a little bit different. It's on there, on the needle different. You just come down from below here and knit that stitch as normal. It just is twisted a little funny. And then we just slip our marker and continue repeating rounds 1 through 2, and that's it. I'm just knitting to my desired length and then finish off my hat or bag or whatever you're making. It could even be a cool sleeve. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Let's go on to the next one of knitting in the flat panel. Knitting the seagrass in a flat panel. My favorite way to work this in the flat panel is actually just to leave the edges with a slip stitch. So this one here does not show a border. You can pick up the stitches afterward really well and just add on a border or crochet on a border, but you can put on a garter stitch or seed stitch border on the sides as you go. However, you need to make those loose or else this can bunch up in here. Now, I do want to show you that this can roll because it is a stockinette type piece. All the knit stitches are on the right side, and so this edge tends to roll. It's really the first edge and the last. And here's a little sample in the smaller one. I did not block this on purpose because I wanted you to see how it can roll. So to prevent the end from rolling here and keep this stitch looking really well, I'm actually started this sample with a seed stitch. So I've casted on 16 stitches for this, and I've just worked a knit, purl across, and then my wrong side I worked purl, knit across, and then repeated that another set of times. So I'm back on my right side. I've casted on an even number of stitches, so you'll need to do the same for yours. You can start it with a couple of rows of garter stitch, or you can leave it alone if you don't want to. Of course, it will roll. If you're going to add on an edging or some fringe or something like that, then by all means, leave it alone. Okay, so I'm not going to add any edging on like these borders here, and I'm just going to work it simply with slipping the stitch. So we're going to, on the right side, the row 1 is slip the stitch knitwise. Okay, and then we're going to bind off the first 2 stitches. So knit 1 and knit the second one and lift that first stitch up and over. Okay, that's 1 stitch bound off. Then we want to thumb cast on. If you remember from in the round, we're just going to twist around to the back, lift it off, and then put it on our working needle, and that's it. Now we move on and we just continue that again. We're going to knit those 2 stitches and lift up and over to bind off, and then we do the thumb cast on. Okay, you're just going to continue across, and on that last stitch you're going to knit it, and then you turn your work. So continue working on that. Pause your video. I'll meet you back up for row 2. See you soon. Okay, so we're on row 2, and we're going to slip this first stitch purlwise. So picking it off just as if we're going to purl, and then continue on purling to the end of this row, and that's it. So now you've got your thumb cast on stitch here. It's a little bit different, so it's a little tight. You're just going to pick it right up, just as if you would to purl, and purl that stitch. It's a little tighter, okay, and just continue across. And that last stitch you purl as well, and that's it. And then you have made the seagrass stitch in a flat panel. And I'll show you what this looks like after a few rounds here, or a few rows here. Pause your video and I'll meet you in a moment. So this is what the stitch looks like after 6 rows. This is 3 repeats of the stitch repeat. And you can see how it definitely has like an angled look to it. Let's flip it on the reverse. You can see the wrong side has a kind of a cool look to it too. You can still see the purl. I think that the seed stitch makes it look really nice, and then it just kind of will fade away. In this example here, you can see how the garter stitch really stands out, and the seed kind of I think it works really well with the main seagrass stitch here. All right, so let's look at the reverse on in the round just to show you a little bit bigger sample. You can see what that looks like as it works up. So you'll see that definite angled look as well in the back. All right, let's move on, and I'll show you how to make this bend in your fabric here for a potential zigzag. Knitting the seagrass for a zigzag configuration. All right, to make the zigzag, it is super fast. You won't even believe it. All you do is add a row 3, which is knit across. You're just gonna slip your first stitch and knit. That's it. It's super easy. However, when you get to the wrong side, that's where things get a little different. This is where you're going to do things more like the what you see in the Sisal pattern, because you have to knit the stitch on the reverse, which means you have to do purl bind offs. So if you saw the Sisal video, if not, go click on that link there. If you saw the Sisal, then you will already know how to do this. But let's work this last stitch here. Okay, and we'll flip it over. And then now when you start working this on the reverse, you're still going to slip one purlwise, and then you are going to purl bind off. So you're just going to purl that first stitch, purl the next stitch, okay, and then lift up and over. Okay, and that's bound off one. And then we're going to thumb cast on. The way we do that is we're just going to flip our yarn over like this, and then pick it up with our working needle, and then pull on that yarn. You can also do that after you can cinch it up when you start making this stitch here. So like say this is really loose, you can just insert your needle in and then pull on it to make it tighter. So you just continue on that 2 stitch repeat, binding off, and then making your thumb cast on, and then work until you have 1 stitch left, and then you just purl that stitch. Okay, so this is the alternate. Whoops, I didn't do my thumb cast on. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and knit across this. Pause your video as you need. And I'll show you the next row. Coming up on the last few stitches. And purl bind off. That last thumb cast on, and then that last purl stitch. Turn it over, and now we're going to knit across. So your row 2 is a knit across, and that's the reverse pattern of the row 2. Oops, and I messed up because I need to slip that first stitch. Let me go back. That's how you do it. So you're going to slip one knitwise, and then knit across. I'll show you what this looks like after this row is complete, and it will show starting to move in the opposite direction. So you can do this movement at any time. If you want it to be free form, then you can just figure out where you want to do it and put it in there. But if you want to be strategic about it, say like in these examples behind, I just counted on a row counter how many times I did a bind off row, and say I did it 12 times, then I finished out with the repeat to keep it in stockinette, so where it's got that knit on the right side. And then I would add my third row, which makes it knit across, you know, and then it would make it turn to the other direction. So what you're seeing is it has this extra knit stitch, and then it's actually going to move. It'll start doing something like this. So it just starts moving in the opposite direction. Now you get more of a movement when you wait longer. So say I did 12 and then I did it again, I wait 12 and then I zig back the other way. So here's an example of where I worked several rows. I think I did 5 repeats here, and then I would zig back over, so you can see it's a little bit elongated knit stitch in the front, and it gives it that little break and movement here. It's a little wobble. Make a little bric-a-brac. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed these tutorials, and tune in for the next one. Be sure and comment below which is your favorite style, and be sure and get your hat pattern as well. Join me for the next video on GoodKnit Kisses. Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.